She's on screen now.
Okay. All right. So I'd like to start today talking about the applied sign linguistics. So basically what we're going to do in this course is to work on books for teaching. And when we have books for teaching, we have two different kinds of books. We have textbooks and we have handbooks. Okay, they may think they're the same, but they're really different. Okay, a textbook is a book that you often use during class, and you can learn a lot by yourself from that kind of book. Okay, like you might have a mathematics textbook. Okay, or even a history textbook where you read about history and you have a question. Okay. But in general, you can't really learn languages from textbooks. Okay, you need a native user of the language to teach you. Okay. And a handbook is something that you probably are not going to use in class. You may use it before class and you may use it after class. So what kind of book do you think we're working on? Textbook or handbook?
Yeah, I'm using both.
No, it's one or the other. If you have a textbook and it works, you don't need a handbook. A textbook you learn from directly. A handbook you use as a study tool. So you can't have the same book as textbook and handbook. Is that clear? It seemed like a lot of puzzle faces.
Yes, sir, it's clear.
Okay. Someone else want to explain it to me? What kind of book we're working on and why?
So this is Jasmine.
Mm-hmm. You're saying?
So we're working on a handbook.
Why are we working on a handbook and not a textbook?
So no, I just wanted to clarify, we're working on a handbook though, right?
Right. Yes, we're working on a handbook. Now, why?
This is Shaq speaking. It contains all the things that we learned, like SOV, and also contains the signs.
So a textbook would not include that?
This is Yami speaking.
Yes, okay.
So textbook are for hearing people because, well, it's for deaf people as well, but because it's in a written language, it's more for hearing. But for handbooks, because it has pictures, it's more for the deaf. So those are the differences. So for the textbook,
Well, textbooks can have pictures and handbooks can have pictures.
so math, English, okay. But the sort of handbook also can contain signs.
Well, a textbook would include signs too. So what's the difference between a textbook and a handbook?
This is Meng speaking.
Mm-hmm.
So a textbook has all the vocab and the signs, whereas the handbook focuses on the phonology and the things that we talked about earlier.
No.
Those various issues like the hand orientation. So all the stuff from the textbook into the handbook. No? Okay.
Say again, all the stuff from the textbooks?
Are in the handbook.
No. Then you wouldn't need two separate books.
Okay, so sir, this is Meng. The textbook has pictures and the signs with sentences, whereas the handbook teaches us how to use these signs using phonology.
No.
So
no,
they are
both,
related to each other.
sorry, no, both will teach you how to use. The difference is a textbook indicates that you can learn the material from the book yourself. Okay, so again, a textbook means you can use the book to learn the material yourself.
Sorry, sir. We have to go back a little bit because the screen has frozen. So can we go back?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Miss Ember. Okay, sir.
And a handbook is you must use the handbook as a supplement to what the teacher uses you. Okay, so do you think hearing people can learn signs from a book?
So this is Marvin.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Marvin.
So does it support the hearing teacher or the deaf teacher? And people are saying both.
Both, yeah. Yeah, it doesn't matter. See, you're making artificial distinctions here. Can you learn from a book?
Yes, Marvin's saying.
Can you learn sign language from a book?
Meng is saying, I missed. This is the textbook, right?
Yeah. Now, I'm just asking you, not textbook or handbook. First of all, can you learn sign language from a book?
Yes.
You think hearing people can learn sign language from a book? Okay, there's no need to train you as a teacher then. We just make a book and sell the book and people will learn from the book.
Then we say some, and then Meng saying maybe.
No, you can't learn a language from a textbook. You need a teacher who knows the language, who can answer questions for you. How can you show the complex movement in a book without showing real signs? Right? Still puzzled expression.
Yes, sir. Yes, Yami's saying.
Yes, sir, puzzled expression, or yes, sir, I understand.
So you're talking about the movement. I'm agreeing about the movement. That you
Okay,
have to be able to show them.
okay. When you were learning English or Tagalog, did you just take a book home and learn from the book?
No,
No. What did you have?
we had teachers.
Yes. That's why it's more important to have a handbook. The handbook supplements what the teacher teaches. So in a textbook, you would just look at the vocabulary and learn it yourself. With the handbook, the teacher would teach you the vocabulary. Would the teacher point at the book and say, okay, this sign is this? Or would they teach without a book?
They would naturally teach. Ray is saying. Yami is saying it depends. Uh, and Shaq is saying you use the book to teach.
So you have the book open in class, and you look at the sign in the book, and then you look at the teacher, and you look at the sign in the book, and you look at the teacher. Is that what you're saying?
This is Ray.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I think that with books, you can use it to learn vocabulary, the text. But for a handbook, includes vocabularies with pictures, the signs, so that you can use it to guide the teaching. So you read from the handbook so that you can teach the signs to both deaf and hearing people. Am I right, sir?
Well, there are different kinds of handbooks. There's a handbook for a teacher and a handbook for a student. Mm-hmm.
So this
Yes,
is Ray. So yes, we have two different kinds when we're talking about the handbook. one for the student, and one for the teacher. So the teacher uses the book to teach while the student uses the handbook to answer.
No, you don't want to use books in a language class. A handbook is for review or preparation. You don't use handbooks during teaching class.
What happened to the interpreter?
I don't know.
One moment. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. So a handbook is not used during class. And in general, what people are going to teach you is you should not use a handbook to teach. You prepare separate materials based on the handbook for teaching. What you need to develop is what we call a lesson plan. A lesson plan, you will say, okay, what's the topic I'm teaching? Okay, I'm teaching fruits. Okay, so I'm going to teach vocabulary for fruits, and I'm going to teach how to talk about fruits. Okay, so how many vocabulary items will you teach? Okay, if you teach like 50 vocabulary items, the students won't remember. Okay, so the teacher doesn't follow the book. The teacher looks at the book and then makes their own lesson plan. How much time will you spend on vocabulary? How will you teach the vocabulary? How much time will you spend on the sentences that you're going to say? What kinds of sentences are you going to teach? Are you going to only teach to the students, or are you going to ask the students to come up in front of the class in pairs or individually and teach the other students as part of the class? How much time will you spend on this? That's different from the book. Okay, so what we're focusing on is a handbook. Why are we focusing on a handbook? Because we are going to use teachers. The teachers are going to teach the information in the book. Maybe they will teach in many different ways. But when the student goes home and they say, I learned the sign for a mango, but I can't remember it. What is the sign for mango? They use the textbook, the handbook to find the vocabulary. Okay. All right. Now, in a textbook, you would look at the vocabulary before you go into class. Do you think it's a good idea for students to see the vocabulary, see pictures of the vocabulary before they're taught?
Meng is saying it depends. it could be word first and then pictures, or it's the other way around?
No, you don't want to teach words when you're teaching sign. You should never use the English word or the Tagalog or Filipino words when you're teaching signs. Teach in the sign language.
Just be saying, can we use pictures and then
Yes,
sign?
yes, yes, you can use pictures. Okay, that's a way of teaching. Let me get Ray's question before I finish. Okay, Ray, go ahead.
I
Banana,
will show
yes.
you for example, I will show you the picture of banana, and then I will ask the students, how you will design banana. Of course, they didn't know that, and or maybe I will allow them to express themselves, to be creative, and then uh, we'll teach them. And after I got their signs or the ideas, I will I will check, and if any one of them can sign, because the sign of banana can be into different signs. You have different signs for banana. So we will show them the picture again for the second. I will show them another picture, and then again check how they will sign this. So it depends, because sign language can be there's a diversity in sign, especially in banana, because there's no this it is not only one sign for a banana.
But do you all agree with that?
I see a few saying
Some,
yes.
yes.
So you're going to let the students
Depends.
make up signs themselves.
It's not really making up signs, but for example, if other provinces, they have a different sign for a banana. That's Meg saying.
What about mango? You're going to show them a mango and let them make up signs for mango?
No, Yummy and Pibs and
Why would you do that
Ray
for
is saying yes.
banana and not do it for other items?
Hmm.
Okay. Mhm.
Meg is saying for the picture, like for example, banana. I'm just curious, what do you think of the sign of this picture? It could be like that, or so we will see the difference, the diversity of the language from different places, and then I will show them how to sign the banana.
But what about mango?
This is the sign of mango. Some it's
No,
in
no, no,
between
no, no, no,
and
no. You're going to show them the banana and ask them how they would sign banana. Are you going to show them a mango and ask how they would sign mango?
yes,
No.
yes.
You want to teach them your language. You don't want them messing with your language. So, you know, if you're learning English, you want to ask Tagalog speakers, what do you think the word for Tagalog is in English? If you ask them what they think the sign is, if you ask people, what do you think the Filipino sign is? You're giving hearing people control over your language. The language belongs to deaf people. So you don't want hearing people to guess at how you sign it. You want to teach them. Okay, so having the students pretend to create signs, this is how I would sign banana, or this is how I would sign banana. It doesn't help because you need to teach them what is correct and what is not.
Yami is raising her hand.
Say again,
Yami.
Yami said what? Yeah.
Yami is raising her hand.
Okay, so when I volunteered at Osami's, this is it brought me back to when I was teaching in Manila as well. But I did the exact same process as Ray did. I showed them a picture. I showed them what they thought, because they have various signs, home signs, for example, that they use. Some use this, for example, on the cheek as mango, right? Because fruit on the cheek, on the cheek, mango. So I'm just curious about what they use in terms of their home signs. So perhaps maybe that's one approach, because we don't want to be forcing a language onto them. We want to make sure that the language develops naturally.
Who are you teaching, deaf or hearing?
Hearing, but they were also from the deaf community. So it
Well,
was
then
curious.
that's different. That's different from hearing people who've never seen a sign language. Yes, if you're teaching Manila signs and they use a sign from another area, that's fine to ask what their sign is. But for hearing people who don't know sign language, you shouldn't be asking them what their sign is. They don't sign. So it depends on who you're teaching.
Ray has his hand up.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, we have to distinctly separate deaf students and hearing students, because with deaf students, for example, they grew up in the community, and they might be using, their community signs. So for me, it's something that I'm curious about, to see the signs that they use in their distinct communities. I would often ask them, who taught them, for example, this sign on the cheek for mango? And if it was a hearing person, I would say no, that sign has to come from a community. So this sign, mango, like this, comes from the community. So that's, just a method, a way. Whereas when I would teach hearing students, what's the sign for a mango? A lot of them would say, no, I don't know, because they don't have any understanding of sign language. So then that's when, as a teacher, I would guide them and show them the appropriate sign. So it's, I guess, for two different students that we have to think about, for deaf and for hearing.
Yeah, yeah. And Ming?
So I taught for 8 years. And for you, Ray, how long did you teach for? So 25 years, 25 years. Okay. Some of us have a lot of experience teaching, so they have different ways to encourage classroom discussions. But what he's telling us is the comparison of how to use these textbooks versus handbooks to help us guide our teaching instruction. That's correct, right, Dr. Woody? Because there's a difference between that method
Yes,
versus
yes,
using those.
but eventually you will learn from a deaf instructor, professional sign language teacher who has a degree in sign language teaching, how they think, how the theory thinks it's best way to teach. So the question is, do you want to learn the current ways of thinking about teaching? Now, I'm not teaching you that. So, but the point is that you are going to eventually have a certificate in sign language teaching taught by a certified sign language teacher, not someone who just decided how to teach, but they've studied how to teach. So the question is, can you be open to new ways of teaching?
Ray has his hand up.
Okay, let me just finish for a second. Okay, when we first started the sign language syntax course, what did you tell me the word order was for Filipino sign language? What did you
SOV.
originally tell me?
SOV, Yami saying.
No, that's not what you told me. You told me it was SVO. SVO, SVO, SVO. And I said, okay, analyze the language and see what you found. And in fact, you found SOV. You didn't find what you thought you would find.
Right.
Okay, so things happen differently when you study about them. And when these teachers teach you, not me, other people, okay, they're not teaching you just from their experience. They're teaching you from people who have done research and experimented with these models. Okay? So you could make the same argument. You've been teaching for 8 years or 10 years or 25 years, so you don't need to analyze the language. But in fact, you did need to analyze the language because the opinions you had about the language were not really what you were in fact using. Okay, so Ray?
So based on my experience, mostly teaching in Manila, I had a certain way of doing things. I would be invited to other cities in Visayas and in Mindanao,
Hmm.
various provinces, and I would meet different deaf people. And some of them were teachers, and we would sign to each other. And they would look at me because of the way I signed was different from theirs. They would often ask if I was hearing or deaf. We were able to communicate, fortunately, but the words we use were different. For example, durian. My sign was like this. So when they looked at me, they were like, "Oh, what's that sign? That's new to us." And I would explain, "That's durian." And then they would say, "Oh, well, for us, it's this way." And so for me, it was an exchange of learning about sign languages from different areas. I mean, when I teach, you know, my class now, do I then take that into account, like the various kinds of signs all over?
What language do you want to teach them?
I think the local language, and so we can use that uh, locally. So we want to make sure that we don't uh, kind of bring that language to Manila, for example. So we don't want everything to be standardized. We just want to respect what they use in their area. So in Bacolod, for example, or from Davao or from various cities, especially these deaf students come from different communities. We want to make sure that we respect the signs that they use. So if someone from Bacolod came and was signing their way, but they're in Manila, we would let them know that this is how we sign it in Manila. And I think that's an appropriate way of approaching it. So if I were to go to Bacolod, then I would respect their signs and use their signs. So I'm just wondering, is that a good way to approach it when we're teaching?
Well, yes, that's a good way, but when people have different language backgrounds, you need to take that into consideration. So the question is, are you teaching Manila signs? Okay, then you should only use Manila signs. You should say, in your area, it's fine. Whatever signs you use are fine. But if you want to learn Manila Sign Language, I will teach you how we sign in Manila. I mean, if it's perfectly fine, if they use their own sign language, then you don't need to teach them Manila signs. You just let them sign their own way. So it depends on your philosophy. But if you want to learn them, we want to learn Manila signs, then you have to teach them Manila signs. And we're not, you just say that if I use a different sign from you, your sign is not wrong. But this is a sign, this is the way we sign it in Manila. Okay, but it really is a waste of your time and their time to ask everybody, what's your sign for this? What's your sign for this? Oh, that's interesting. Because you're not teaching Manila signs when you do that. So what is your purpose for teaching? Yes, Ming?
So we teach in order to do kind of a linguistic analysis of the language. So we teach because we already learned the linguistics of the language. So once we get our certification, that validates that we can teach, right?
Your certification validate, and what I'm teaching you validates you can do research on sign languages. It doesn't validate you to teach. I haven't taught anything at all about how you teach. I'm not deaf. This is why we want to get deaf sign language teachers who have professional training. Okay, so no, my training doesn't certify you to teach. Teaching and researching are related, but they're different things. You peeps?
No, no comment here.
Okay, yeah. So I'm not telling you how to teach. I'm just simply saying what kind of books you can use while you're teaching. And there's a big difference between a handbook and a textbook. So in a handbook, you would expect the teacher to teach the class. And then the student would go home and review. And they would use the books for review. They would not use the books in class. So what we're working on are handbooks. That the students use after class for a review. Okay.
Okay.
If you want textbooks, then you will need to go to a textbook specialist. Okay, not me. So if you're not satisfied with what I will teach you, then we can tell Teshi that she needs to find someone else to teach this course. If you want a textbook, you need to find someone else. Okay, so I'm happy if you want to do that, but let me teach you a week and then you see if you like it or don't like it. And then you can make a decision and discuss with Teshi.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So we're using textbooks. We're using handbooks because the students are not learning directly from the book. They're learning from a teacher. And that teacher will be deaf and will be certified to teach. In all the projects I've worked in, I don't if I have any control, I don't allow hearing people to learn how to teach signs. If hearing people are fluent in sign language and they want to do something to serve the deaf community, they can become interpreter and leave the teaching of the sign language to deaf people, because deaf people's language is a sign language. So in Vietnam, we try to hire only deaf professionals to teach the deaf people how to teach signing, and then we don't allow hearing people to study and train in the program, only allow deaf people. So have I ever taught sign language? No. Now, when I was in Thailand, what we did was that you had to have a PhD to teach at the university. No deaf people had a PhD. So the course had my name, Woodward, and staff. And then the staff taught and I didn't teach. But my name needed to be on there because of the school regulations. Okay. So this is, this is basically my philosophy. Right. Okay. So again, why are we using handbooks and not textbooks?
Jasmine's saying to support the teachers, so we use them to supplement the teacher.
Right, right. We're not saying the book can teach you sign language. What we're saying is a deaf person can teach you sign language, and the book will help you remember the signs that you learn. The book is not going to teach you anything. The teacher teaches you. Now, of course, if you don't have teachers, enough teachers, then you can make a CD or a video of a deaf person teaching the class. And you can use that and the handbook as a supplement. Okay. This is what we tried to do in Vietnam because we only had 10 teachers trained. So 10 teachers for all over Vietnam, not enough. Okay, so we develop videos, and I think the person who is going to teach you about teaching, the deaf person, will talk about making videos. Okay, let me go back and check my notes real quick. Oops.
Do an interpreter switch.
Okay. All right, now we also have to think about, not only are we using a textbook or a handbook, what is the level of instruction? So usually we divide teaching materials into introductory, intermediate, and advanced. 3 levels. You can divide into more levels. I don't think you can make it any less. So what we're working on is introductory level. So this assumes that no one knows the sign language, anything at all about the sign language that they're learning. You will have a difference if a person knows another sign language, or if the person is deaf versus a hearing person. Okay, so you should really divide people. So people who have experience in a sign language should be in one class. People who have no experience should be in another class. Okay, and intermediate classes, there is a lot of basic vocabulary, and you can teach introductory classes, a lot of basic vocabulary. You can use pictures, you can use objects as stimuli to teach. Okay, now if you have an intermediate class, that means the person should be able to carry on a basic conversation, like what's your name, where are you from, what do you work, what do you do for work. But you often have like very simple sentences or very short sentences. So in an intermediate class, what you want to do is focus on making the information more specific, like not just asking the students to give one word answers, like, are you deaf or hearing? I'm hearing, okay, so what's your name? Okay, but in the intermediate level, you want to develop skills in the students, like where they can tell stories about their background. So for example, my name is James Woodward, and people call me Woody, W-O-O-D-Y. Okay, I was born in the United States in Tennessee, and I went to college in Washington, D.C. So you can keep telling and telling and telling. That's what you want to focus on in an intermediate class. And then in an advanced class, you want to focus on specialized vocabulary. So for example, like you can talk about symptoms of illnesses. You can explain about COVID-19. What is COVID-19? What are the symptoms of this? And you go into much more detail. Or you have like storytelling, where you hold up a picture and say, okay, look at this picture and tell me everything you see in it. Okay, and then the person will know when to set up the background of the story, when to talk about characters in the story, when to talk about what people are doing, okay? So each level increases the complexity and skill, but we're only focusing on introductory level. Okay? As you can't teach an advanced class unless the students have finished intermediate, and you can't teach intermediate unless they have taught introductory class. Now, when you're teaching an introductory class, we want to, I think as Jasmine said, we want to have pictures or objects to show to students, very concrete kind of examples. So do you need to write down English or Tagalog words on the board when you're teaching FSL?
It's just Ray is saying maybe just introduce yourself,
Yeah, you don't need to
introduction.
write words. It used to be the case that people would say, okay, I'm going to teach you word for fruit. Write the word mango. This is a sign for mango. And write the word for durian. This is a sign for durian. That doesn't help the student. What helps the student is they learn how to visualize.
Just gonna say pictures. Better use pictures
Yes,
instead.
yes. Yeah, pictures or actually, if you're teaching fruits, it's better not even to use pictures. It's better to bring in fruits into the classroom. Okay. All right. So I think this is about the introductory level I wanted to reach. So again, we're focusing on handbooks at the introductory level in Filipino Sign Language. So Peebs, were you able to send out um, um, the lessons for today?
Yes, sir. I did it yesterday.
Okay. All right. So if you open your lesson, I can screen share with you. Um,
So we'll open it on our screens.
okay. Now open the Vietnamese one first. Ho Chi Minh City. Let me see here.
So the Word document, sir?
Yes, Vietnamese lesson. Is it lesson 1 or lesson 2 that I sent you? I think lesson 1, right?
Yes, sir. Lesson 1.
Okay, hold on a second here. Get this downloaded. Okay. All right. Now, sorry, I haven't gotten my up yet.
Lesson 1, sir, right?
Yes, I don't know why I'm having trouble here finding the file. I have to download it again, sorry.
This is Ray speaking.
Yes,
Lesson 1,
Mm-hmm.
greetings, name. That's the one.
Yes, yes. Should have a different name for the Vietnamese and the Filipino versions. Okay. It should be lesson 1, final. Okay. All right. So why did I give you the Vietnamese version? Before Jasmine and Ming and the others started on the lesson 1. Why did I give you the Vietnamese version?
I think Shaq is signing. Shaq.
Okay. John?
Okay, I think because I think the Vietnamese, they already have theirs about their culture and their language, and as for the Filipino, we're going to have our own.
As a basis of comparison.
So,
Okay. And Yami, what did you think?
the one that you sent us, I understand that's their own. It will help us. You will show us and how we can apply it in our lesson.
Yes. So it's meant to be used as something you can work with to plan your own materials. Okay. Now, it's important that you don't just copy everything. Okay. Even if you put in the examples from Filipino Sign Language, it's important you think about how Ho Chi Minh City Sign Language. So this is Sign Ho Chi Minh. Yeah, got it before. Okay. And how Filipino Sign Language works. Okay. Okay. So for example, in words for family members. Okay. Different languages have different words. So for example, in English, we are ASL and then also spoken English, we have the sign for brother and sister. Okay. Now it used to be that ASL did not make a distinction between brother and sister. Brother and sister, same sign. So for example, you would say, okay, you're pointing at your sister. So she and I, or two movements. Okay, later it became a compound. So man, same, and girl, same. Okay, and now it doesn't even look like those signs anymore. For example, the ASL sign for brother no sign for men anymore. It's been assimilated. Or sister. Actually with this handshake, so sister, sister. Okay, so if we look at Vietnamese Ho Chi Minh City Sign Language, then you have a sign for this, 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 and this. Okay, this sign means older brother. And this sign means older sister. And this sign means younger brother or younger sister. Okay. And then in Japanese Sign Language, we have, okay, older brother, goes up, goes up, goes up, older brother, and younger brother, and older sister, and younger sister. So if we analyze American signs, we have two signs, brother and sister. Okay, if we analyze Ho Chi Minh City signs, we have three signs, older brother, yeah, so, but you can put it in quotes, older brother, which is this, yeah. And older sister, okay, and younger brother or sister. Okay. Now, when we analyze Filipino Sign Language, how many signs do we have? You have the Vietnamese version, which has older brother, older sister, and younger brother, younger sister. So when you're doing the analysis of Filipino Sign Language vocabulary, how many signs should you have? No.
Three.
Two. Brother and sister. You don't have a sign for, you don't have an older, but you don't have one sign. You don't normally talk about older brother and younger brother, older sister and younger sister, right? You have to make a compound sign. Your basic vocabulary is brother and sister. And then you can teach old, and you can teach people how to say older brother and older sister, younger brother and younger sister. But your vocabulary should not read older brother, older sister, younger sibling. That's not the way Filipino Sign Language works. Filipino Sign Language works brother and sister, that's it. Then you can make compounds with that, but that's not a basic family term. So for example, if you look at older brother in Ho Chi Minh, it's only one sign. Okay, and then older sister, and then younger sibling. Okay, so you really have two signs, brother and sister, and then you can modify those signs by older and younger, or first brother, second brother, first sister, second sister. Those are not separate signs to separate vocabulary items. Okay, so when you're doing this, I didn't have a chance to teach all of you before about this, but when you're doing this, you have to convert the Vietnamese structure into what you use in Philippines. Does that make any sense? You can't just copy the words. Okay? All right, so we want to take a short break, 15 minutes, and then come back and start talking about the lesson. Okay, so thank you. Okay, so now what I'd like you to do is, well, we can keep on the Vietnamese one first. As you see on the file, okay, let me screen share this a little bit. And then we'll go back to no screen sharing. Okay, as you can see in the file, lesson 1, greetings, names, there is an introductory page, and it says read before class. So the students will read this so they'll know what they're going to be learning about. Okay, that's why this is here, and it provides some information. We'll come back to that in a little bit. But first, I want to go to the second part. Okay, as you can see here, section 2, for review after class. Again, if we go back up to the first page, it says, at this point, what I have highlighted, at this point, you should stop reading until you have attended class. So you should not go any further. You should not look at the signs. And after class, you should use section 2 for review and further class. This indicates that we're working with a handbook, not a textbook. Okay. So then section 2, after you've learned the class, here are some types of things. Now, part 1, saying hello. In Ho Chi Minh City Sign Language, there are 2 ways of saying hello. Now, there may be in Filipino signs, may not be, but there's one way used by a younger person to an older person, and one used by people of the same age. Okay. So, and then some directional pointing, indicating location. Part 4, asking about and indicating written names. Okay, here are the vocabulary items. Okay. And then examples of grammar. example 1, example 2, example 3, 4, and then part 5 is about name signs. Okay, how to ask and respond to name signs. Okay, and then some more examples. And then there's homework. So the homework gives you certain tasks to do. And so the first task is to sign the story. The second task is to sign the story. Third, same story. The fourth one, you're asked to write the English translation of the sign under each picture. Now, you don't know what those signs are unless you go back. But for example, the first sign is who. The first sign on the left right here is who, and then me, and then right or correct, third sign, and then you, I ask you. So what we've asked the people who've been working on this to do is to see if a similar lesson could be developed for Filipino Sign Language. Now, number 5 are sentences, and you're asked to write the translation of the sentence. Number 6 are incorrect or wrong. Number 6. So, for example, the sign number A says, now that literally means who is the person with this name sign, but in the grammar, it should be who should occur at the end of the sentence, okay? So students have to correct that, all right? And then 7 gives a little more information about the grammar of the language, okay? So now, what I'd like you to do is to divide into groups right now and look at lesson 1 in Vietnam and what people have prepared in lesson 1 for Filipino Sign Language. Not the first long page, don't worry about that yet. Start with section 2. Section 2. Start with this section. Section 2 for review after class. Can you see the cursor here? Okay, now it doesn't have to be exactly the same. What's most important is that every vocabulary item is correct and every grammar item is correct. So open up the, hold on a second, let me stop share. And
so for older, there's different greetings for when you greet someone older than you and younger than you. I'm just asking, that's what we're focusing on, learning how to greet.
well, that's one of the things. That's one of the things, yes.
Peeps is saying, can you do it again? I missed it.
I didn't actually show the signs. Let me just.
Yeah, Shaq's just reiterating what Meng said about there's a difference between greeting somebody older than you and younger than you in sign language.
Not younger than you, older than you in Ho Chi Minh City Sign Language, older than you or the same age or younger.
Yes, older and same age.
Yeah. Now, if you have that, it should be included in your file. And if you don't have that, it should not be included. Okay, so here is lesson 2. Oh, shoot. I got the wrong file up here. Hold on. Waiting for it to download here. Oh, it's lesson 2. I didn't get lesson 1. Well, anyway, okay. Let me see. Let me see here. Okay, all right. The wrong file here. Okay. All right, I'm sorry here. Going a little strange here. Okay, I sent you non-comparable files. So let's actually start with lesson 2. So let me send you another file here. The file you have for FSL is lesson 2. Okay. Let's go back to lesson 1 later. So, all right. So for lesson 2, numbers and basic days of the week. Okay, can you see in the file here?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So look at this file, and then I'm going to send you another file of lesson 2 in Vietnam. I sent you lesson 2 in Philippines and lesson 1 in Vietnam. Not going to compare. Easy. So let me send you, Peebs, I'm going to send you
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
lesson 2 for Ho Chi Minh City Sign Language. All right. Taking some time to upload, sorry. So today we'll only look at lesson 2, and then next week we'll come back to lesson 1. Lesson 2 is a bit more like the other lessons, lessons 2, 3, 4, etc. They are ordered in the same way. Lesson 1 is a bit different. Okay, so we'll discuss that one later. Beebs, did you get the file yet?
Okay, I sent it out to everybody. Please
Okay,
check. Please check your
thank you.
emails.
So when you get it, open up the Vietnamese version first, the new email, and then we'll open the Filipino Sign Language version and compare.
Ray hasn't received his yet. He's the only one.
Ah, hasn't gone out yet. Saved in drafts, right?
There's some that have received it. It's just Ray.
Okay. Let me go back to the sent email here. Yeah, it says lesson 1, but it's really lesson 2. Okay, so if you can open up, I'll screen share with you here. Okay, and in lesson 2 here, okay, yeah, all right. I'm going to screen share now. So what you will see is that the lesson starts off in a similar way. There's some readings to do at the beginning, before class, read before class. Can you see that here? Read before class. And then so at this point, you should stop reading until after class. Okay, don't look at the first section right now. Go to section 2. And you will see numbers and some nouns, some examples. And then you will see days of the week, part 2. You will see vocabulary here. And then you will see examples of vocabulary of talking about days of the week. And then there's some homework. So what I want you to do is divide into groups and compare the original version in Ho Chi Minh City Sign Language and the Filipino version that people have prepared. We've made some corrections, but I want to make sure that you all agree that all the signs listed are correct. You can, that they are the right signs, correct signs, and that it basically generally follows the same format in both, for both Ho Chi Minh City Sign Language and Filipino Sign Language. Okay? And when you divide into groups, it's better if you can, if the people who worked on the lesson and how many people worked on the lesson? I think it was Jasmine and Ming, and I can't remember everybody else. Can someone tell me who worked on?
There was 4 of us. Jasmine
Okay.
saying me, Shaq, and Nat.
And who else?
And Meng.
And Ming. Okay. So,
Dr. Woody, this is the interpreter. Can you stop share screen?
stop share screen. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, and how many other people do we have?
So we have 10
We
in
have
total.
10 total. 6 and 4. Okay. Why don't we have, from the group that did the work on producing the version of lesson 2, let's take 2 people and put them in one group, and 2 people and put them in the other group. So you had 4 originally, right? So take 2 and put them in one group and keep 2 in the other group. And then you have 6 more people. And for the 6 people, 3 people will join group 1 and 3 people will join group 2. And that way you should be able to discuss everything in detail and see if the groups agree at the end of the discussion. So I don't know if we can finish the discussion of the lesson today. We have about 1 hour. We can come back in about 45 minutes. That would be 4:45 your time. And then we can start the discussion, but I'll give you more time next week on Tuesday. I'll give you an hour for each group to continue discussing.
Jasmine had her hand up.
Yes, Jasmine?
Question, sir.
Mm-hmm.
So we do both lesson and 1. We break down the work, lesson 1 and lesson 2.
No, don't do lesson 1 because I didn't send you all the information on lesson 1. Let's start with just lesson 2. Okay, we'll come back to lesson 1 next week. Okay?
Okay.
Is that clear,
Copy.
Jasmine?
Copy.
Yeah, that's my fault because I didn't send out the right information. And lesson 2 is a little easier to work on than lesson 1. Lesson 2, if we get that going well, then lessons 3, 4, 5 will be very similar. But lesson 1 is a bit organized a bit differently. Okay? Yeah.
Okay, sir. Let's
All right.
get Christian's attention. Christian.
Everybody's back? Okay. Okay. So I don't know which group is group 1 and which group is group 2, but maybe one group start and explain what you've done so far. Were you able to finish the whole lesson?
Ray saying we haven't completed it, and Jasmine saying we have completed it. Group 2 has completed it.
Okay. Did you find anything that you think needs to be corrected?
This is Kyla. So there were certain signs in Vietnam for time of day, and then in the Philippines,
Well,
sorry, I didn't get
how
that.
would you ask what day?
So there's two compound words for what day is it in Vietnam.
Yeah, that's fine. So how do you want to correct it for the Philippines?
So it's just now what? Now what? Or,
Okay, now what? And how about what date? Like the 3rd or the 4th or the 5th?
or Jasmine is saying now day what? Yeah,
But
because
that's
Phoebes is saying now what? Like we don't have any kind of subject, so we have to make that clear to add the day. What day? Now day what?
okay. Do you all agree with that? Or which now what or now day what?
Now day what?
Okay. All right. um, you don't have to enter that in the vocabulary. That can be in the grammar because you've already talked about now in the vocabulary, right? So you don't need to repeat this sign. You don't need to teach it again. And you've already talked about day, right? You have day in the vocabulary. You have day, right?
Yes, yes.
Yes. Okay. So in the vocabulary, you already have now, and you have the word day. And then in lesson 1, you have the word what. So you don't need to teach it as a vocabulary item. You just put it in the grammar. Yeah, in the sentence.
Okay.
In the sentence. You don't need to put it in both the vocabulary and the sentence.
Okay, sir.
You
I
understand? Yeah. I mean, so this is the kind of changes you need to make because you're analyzing what happens in Filipino Sign Language, not what happens in Ho Chi Minh City Sign Language. Okay? So if it's different, then you need to treat it differently, and that's very important. Okay? So if you already have now, okay, you already have that, and you already have day, you already have that, and you already have what? Then you don't need to put it in the vocabulary. But this sign is really kind of a compound. This is like, I don't know how to it doesn't translate well into English, but for example, this is, it used to be compound sign. This too. And it changed into this. That means Monday. And then or means Tuesday, okay? So you need to add this because in the signs, we're only introducing this. We're not introducing this, right? And we have this sign and we have how many? But we don't have this sign. So we need to introduce it in the vocabulary. Then we,
Jasmine,
after we introduce it in the vocabulary, then we can talk about it in sentences.
Jasmine has her hand up.
Yes, Jasmine.
So maybe within our team, because there's a little bit of a confusion, we can do examples for lesson 1 for words like what, have those vocab words there,
Yeah.
the vocabulary words rather. So that's lesson 1, what, which is already, which we already discussed. Lesson 2 doesn't have to have what because it's already part of lesson 1, right? So lesson 2
Correct.
is not necessary. But when we apply this to grammar, to sentences, like what, how, why, then that's when we can incorporate those signs again. So now,
Wait, just 1 second. I don't want to interrupt you, but I want to say, yes, you are 100% correct that whatever vocabulary you introduce in lesson 1, you're not finished with it. You use it in lesson 2 or lesson 4 or lesson 3. And so you again and again practice that vocabulary in sentences, but you don't introduce the vocabulary again once you have introduced it.
yes, sir.
Okay? Yeah.
Right. So my question, Dr. Woody, because our group was discussing this and we saw Ho Chi Minh sign of this, right?
Yeah.
And
Tomorrow.
also tomorrow, where it was also that. So it was from our sign, from Filipino sign, where Tuesday, tomorrow,
Right.
that's the way we use it, right? Tuesday, tomorrow.
Yeah.
So after our discussion, right, we thought,
Mm-hmm.
Tuesday, tomorrow, and Tuesday, tomorrow, right, might have the same meaning, even if you have a head shake. So it's
Yeah.
best that for that example, we leave it.
Yeah. Right. So that's exactly the kind of thing you need to be discussing and come up with a reason. We believe it's important to include that because with right, you have a head shake. And so therefore you need to teach that. Right? So again,
Okay, I see.
yes. And again, the Vietnamese lessons are only meant as a guide. So for example, in Ho Chi Minh City Sign Language, you can have a question or you can have a sentence, and then you can make it a question by going right, wrong, right, wrong, and facial expression. But in Myanmar, in Yangon, okay, you can't say right, wrong. You can't say right and wrong. You have to say right. So you can't sign right, wrong. You have to sign right. So that's how it's different also. So in Philippine, we don't know how it is until you define it. So if I have a question and I say, well, why did you include this example? Then you can answer me. like you did now, and you say, well, it's important because we have question with facial expression, and it's important to show that, okay? But if you say, oh, we put it in because the book in Ho Chi Minh City Sign Language has that, that's not a good reason, okay? Because you're not copying Ho Chi Minh City Sign Language sign. You are only using that as an example to create your own materials. So you have to go back and forth between what you see in the book and how you sign it yourself. Okay? So that's difficult, but it's something that you need to focus on. And I think it's good now we're having this class, because actually I have to apologize to Jasmine and the group because I've been delayed in responding to you. But I think this kind of class interaction where you're all discussing it together makes it easier for us to discuss and to make decisions. Whereas if I just talk with you individually, it's not so clear why or how or what, okay? But this is a way to learn so you can help train other people to do other material, further lesson. So I think your comments are exactly what I want to see. Okay, because it's clear that you're now thinking about it and how, and now, this is different. Do we include it or not? Yeah.
Right. It's exactly what me and Yami were discussing. So, okay, sir.
Yeah. So I think having this as a class and having everybody participate, even if one person doesn't say a lot, they will learn from the discussion. Okay. So I think basically lessons 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are probably don't need much work. There are a couple of things I think we need to change, and I'll talk with you about that on Tuesday, because it's a little bit complex to finish. Yeah, should stop now. But anyway, so do you need more time on Tuesday to continue discussion, or you think you have everything?
We'll discuss a little bit more on Tuesday, just
Okay. And then when both groups finish discussing and we come back into the whole session, then I will also make my comments on what I think might be improved if you change a couple of things. Okay, but I want you all to discuss first. This time, what is this?
That's an assignment. That's our assignment.
Oh, that's your assignment. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
So we're already jumping ahead to homework. So who's doing what? So
okay. So that's good. Or if you don't have time this week, you can do it. I'll give you some time on Tuesday to do it too. Okay. And then after you have some time to discuss it, and you make your comments, and I'll make my comments and see what you think about my comments. And then if things need to be changed, we need to make an assignment as to who will change. Like if a drawing needs to be changed, who will do that? If you need to take out one example, who will do that? If you want to add an example or add a sign, who will do that? So we can come up with a procedure. I know some of you have been working on the drawings, right? Not in the group of 4, but in the group of 6, right? Who's been doing the drawings?
So Marvin was one, Shaq.
Okay, yeah, so Marvin is not doing the example so much, but he is doing the drawings of the photographs, okay? And then Shaq was also doing some layout, like putting the pictures in the right order. So we can continue with that group doing that, or we can have those people who do those special things like the drawings, or have those people who do special things like the layout, can teach other people how to do it. Okay, so everybody in the group will have all the skills that you need. Okay? And we don't have to do it that way, so we'll discuss this on Tuesday. Okay? So, good class? Difficult this time.
Yes, sir.
Because we are starting a new class and we have to adjust to kind of things. But my lecture part is going to be very little in each class. Our part, the main part of the class will be discussing what you have and how to change it, how to improve it, and also creating new lessons after we get past lesson 5. I know the group has done some work on lesson 6 and 7, but those will need some more in-depth revision. Okay? All right, so yeah, and if I say, well, I don't think that's good, I think it needs to be changed, that's not saying what you did is bad. Okay, it's, you know, you're trying to improve, exactly. And you may not agree, and that's fine, because it is your book, okay? But I want to make it as easy as possible by giving you what was done in Vietnam. Now, let me explain that the Vietnamese lessons, the examples and the vocabulary were chosen by fluent deaf signers, okay? Under the direction of Dr. Mike Kemp. Mike Kemp? Kemp, okay. He's passed away. Otherwise, I would ask him to teach you. Yeah, so anyway.
That's too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't had a chance. Yami hasn't had a chance to meet him, so.
Yeah, and then Hua, my wife, who is an experienced teacher, took all that information and helped design the formatting, you know, how do we put the vocabulary in, how do we put the grammar in, but all the examples come from deaf people, okay? So we'll talk about this more as we go through. Okay, and then my contribution is making sure that the deaf people's examples are correct and not following spoken language. Okay, so if I think something should be changed, I will ask you, well, can you sign it like this, or can you sign it like that? And then you say, oh yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Or no, you can't sign it that way. Okay. So one example we're going to come to, I'm sorry I'm talking so long, but I'll just finish this up now. One example we're going to come to is the beginning of the lesson, lesson 1 and lesson 2, we say the word order in Filipino Sign Language is SOV, and that's half correct. It's not 100% correct, because when we got to lesson 5, you told me that you have to sign like, or you can sign it. The man loves the woman. And that is subject, verb, object, word order. Now in Ho Chi Minh City Sign Language, it's still SOV. So in Ho Chi Minh City Sign Language, you say man, woman, love, and you twist your body to indicate what the subject is and what the object is. So that's why the Ho Chi Minh City Sign Language says the order in Ho Chi Minh City Sign Language is always SOV. But we need to change a couple of things in lesson 1 and 2. So we talk about that there are 2 word orders in Filipino Sign Language, SOV and SVO. And talk about when one is used and when the other is used. Okay? So we learn as we're developing the materials. Okay? And before I close, I want to ask the interpreters, is it fairly easy to follow the discussion? Because I don't know, a little bit technical. So I want to ask the interpreters if...
This is Bay speaking. I'm okay as long as if we have the materials in advance so we can understand what they're talking about in terms of the
Okay.
layout
Okay.
and all that stuff. That's fine.
Okay.
Ember,
Okay.
what about you?
Okay.
Thumbs up.
Good. So I'll try to send everything to Peebs as soon as I get it ready, and then Peebs can make sure you have a copy.
Meng
as
has
well
her
as-
hand up.
Yes, Ming.
So originally at Ho Chi Minh City, there was some influence in English.
No.
So basically, no, for you, when you said that you didn't want it to have some sort of English word order, so that's what's going to happen with us, is we're going to make sure that ours doesn't also follow word order. I just want to clarify.
Well, I want you to follow the word order that you use. Now, in Vietnamese spoken language, no, has nothing to do with English. No English. We didn't use English. I didn't use English with them. I used Ho Chi Minh City Sign Language. So I would, we would have a sign like, okay, so we have like man, we have woman, and we have love. So I would ask them, how do you put that together in a sentence? And then they would give me examples. Okay, but there's no English at all in this.
Nat has his hand up. Nat has his hand up.
Sorry, I didn't.
So Nat has his hand up. He's speaking.
Okay, Nat has his hand up, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, but I want to make sure that you are giving me the examples. Now, we're starting with English in the sense of English meaning. Okay, but I want you not to follow English in your example. I want you to follow Filipino Sign Language. Now, if some sentences in Filipino Sign Language are the same grammar as some in English, that's fine. Okay, but I don't want you to speak and sign at the same time when you're doing these examples. Now, if you speak and sign at the same time, that's fine, no problem. But don't teach it that way. Teach it the way deaf people do it when they're not talking. I'm not sure I'm making that clear or not, but we can talk more on Tuesday. So basically, these examples are all from deaf people. Yeah. And then that?
That's fine. We'll talk about it more on Tuesday. That's fine.
But go ahead, give me your question now.
Okay. Because when we discussed as a group, when, for example, do we do the Wednesday, then the number, and then when? Like, and and Meng had a discussion about adding day. So Wednesday, day, date, when. So there was, a little bit of like, we kept adding more words in. And because we noticed that, for example, when by itself, uh, there was information missing, like we needed to
Yeah,
add more
yeah,
context to it. So that's,
right. Now, one thing we haven't talked about, and we'll talk more on Tuesday, is should you teach longer sentences or shorter sentences? Okay, so for example, like, who knows uh, Visayan language? Okay, suppose you ask that in sign, who knows Visayan language? And then you can answer, Kyla knows, Kyla, right? And in conversation, you may say nothing more than Kyla. But hearing people aren't going to know how to construct a sentence. So you need to be able to teach in the grammar, Kyla knows Visayan language. So even though it's a little redundant, you can't just answer with one word questions. Or for example, like, who's from America? And I sign. Now that's the way people would normally sign. But the point is that teaching people to sign me alone is not very helpful. So is it I born America, I America born? How do you structure the sentence? So it's better to teach longer sentences and then shorten them down. Yeah. So this is something we'll continue to discuss and we'll talk more about on Tuesday. All the questions very good today. Okay. All right. So let you and the interpreters go and rest a little bit. See you on Tuesday. Okay.
thank you, sir.
Bye-bye for now.
See you. Bye, Dr. Woody.
Yeah, bye-bye.